Welcome to another episode of Sawdust Nation. Hey man, I do believe it's episode 10.
It is.
We made it to 10. That's all the fingers I have. I'm going to start counting on toes. Are you giggling in the background? That's AJ from Crafted and NJ. And I'm Josh from North Country working. No, I'm a working man. I'm a blue collar worker. No, I'm North Country Woodworking. Obviously, it's going to be a long night, and thank you for joining us on our 10th episode.
Oh, Jesus. This is the greatest way to start it all off. I'm sorry to cut you off. I have to jump in. Laughs right off the bat is going to lead to an amazing show.
I hope so. Well, okay, so, man, what are you working on in your shop?
Well, what's on my, many benches in that shop is
what's on your work surface?
Yeah, my work surface, which is including every little flat surface like we explained in the last episode. So I got flags literally all over my shop. I got them in the shop. I got them in the back room. I got them on the CNC. But I got a couple wavy flags that are in the process of getting cleared. I did not clear them tonight. I was actually supposed to, then got tied up with a few other things. So those are two wavies. One's a 2-foot. One's I believe a small, like my smaller version of it. And I'm clearing them with that Varathane Spar water-based. And actually it's laying out pretty good. So while I was actually spraying them, I was thinking about when we were talking about it and, giving you the tips. And, I just watched how I did it. I definitely ran over it a little bit faster than I would lay out the polyacrylic. And then I gave it like a little spritz at the end. And it actually came out, even the first coat, I almost have to do minimal sanding to it. On top of that, I am making my first set of cornhole boards. And let me tell you, and Kim can attest to this, that I almost quit woodworking at this point because of a damn cornhole board. Because
oh no,
I'm telling you, man, I had
that dollar.
I almost called you and said, just come over with the truck and pick up everything because I'm done. It was a 6-inch hole that I was trying to cut, and I didn't want to do it the barbaric way with the hole saw because I already drilled one. And let me tell you, that hole saw, I don't know how you do it, but that hole saw is a bear, especially if going slow. I was trying to make a jig for my router and using a templating bit, and then I was watching some videos online. So that what I actually did was, because in my infinite wisdom, I have the CNC sitting downstairs, but I didn't think that, I could cut a perfect circle on a CNC for some reason. I didn't even, I swear to God, it didn't even dawn on me. I'm racking my brain on how I'm going to make a perfect circle for a template that I can use to run the router on the inside of it. Because I still wanted to cut the cornhole hole by hand using a router. And so I threw a piece of 3/4 ply on the CNC, cut the appropriate sized hole, which was like 10-inch for my router to be on that 6-inch mark. So anyway, I put the router inside, get a downcut bit, throw it in there, and I'm cutting it. And I cut out the circle fine for the first time. And then I took a mega flush trim bit, hence mega. And I went, I'm going to clean up the insides. I'm just going to run it around, no problem, yada, yada, yada. And let me tell you, I didn't account for the diameter of the bit and made the 6-inch hole into a 6.5 hole. And let me tell you, because it's a hole, it's nothing special. I wasn't building a walnut piece of furniture that's going to go in the president's, Oval Office. I'm building a cornhole board. And I'm telling you, I almost called you and said, just come and pick up everything. Even the wood, take the racks, take everything. CNC, 3D print, just have it all. $1. I'm good.
I just want the CNC machine, your routers, and your sander. Pretty much everything else I have, I'm good. Oh, maybe I need Tiffany too. I'm going to take home Tiffany.
Yeah, that's it. I don't know what I would keep out of that. I don't think I'd keep any of it. It was especially how I was. I'm like, I'm racking my brain. I know I'm complaining at this point, but it was a hole. How can you screw up a 6-inch hole? That's all it was.
Man, woodworking is one of those things where like a box, you know this.
Yeah, I know.
A box can kick your butt. You know what I'm saying? Like some of the most simple things are the hardest And then like I'll build a piece of furniture. I'm like, wow, that was incredibly simple. I could do that with my eyes shut. Would never do that. It's safety. Don't try that at home. And if you do, take a video so I can see it. But some of the simplest things, you almost overthink it to the point of failure, because you'll sit there and overthink it, come up with a complicated solution, and then go do it, and you're going to mess up.
That's exactly what I did. I overthought it. I should just put the cornhole board on the CNC, cut the hole out with the CNC, and be done, because then I know it would be perfect. I know there would be no edges, but I wanted to do it by hand, so I had some satisfaction of actually making these. I see everybody else doing it. Why can't I? That was my thing that was going through my head. Anyway, enough about cornhole boards, because trust me, they're sitting downstairs taunting me at this point. But successfully, no, I already have one of those. That's the thing. I have a 6-inch hole saw.
What? And you didn't use it?
I did not use it because I cut out a template for it, because I was going to use a templating bit. So I figured, okay, if I have a 6-inch template, I'll just run the templating bit around it. And that was a bear to, cut through that wood. I mean, the 6-inch, I put it on slow. I grabbed that sucker, in my forearm.
The key is you can't go down straight on the piece of wood with
Correct.
all the teeth hitting at once. You have to do it at kind of an angle. What I do is I don't let it pull the saw, pull the saw down, but pull the bit down. I kind of lift up on it.
Yep.
And then lightly go.
You kind of let it float.
Yeah. And believe me, there's been a couple times where I've actually sat back and I'm like, okay, still got my wrist. Yep. Give it a couple minutes and try it again.
Oh yeah. I mean, I deal with hole saws at my regular job. The biggest I've ever used was a 4.5, and I don't know why you're laughing. We're talking about hole saws, my friend.
Bowls, saws, whatever.
Whatever. All right, enough about the cornhole boards. I've bored everybody to death at this point. Got the 3D printer going. It is working its butt off right now. I don't know if the 3D printer has a brain to say, like, what am I doing? Because it's so used to its old home at my father's house where it just sat there idle, never did anything. And now it's getting worked almost every single night. I don't do real long prints, only because the type of machine that it is has these little arms that come off of it with a magnetic ball at the end to hold the printer head. And what happens is after, certain hours, I have to then take all that apart just to clean them, re-grease them. So I'm afraid to do anything kind of over the 4-hour mark, only because I want to know that it's going to not fail on me. So my longest print so far, I think, has been like maybe 4.5 hours. I'm not, it's one of those things. I don't want it to be working too much without, a break. I kind of let me just put it this way. I want to be able to have it stop, get the print done, be able to clean those. I almost tripped up. I wanted to, I'm going to say it anyway. I wanted to, have it take a break so I could clean the balls.
Yes, we're children.
So anyway, but I want to make sure that everything's going right. Even though I'm only upstairs or downstairs right next to it. But anyway, 3D printer going really well. Printed some Milwaukee stuff for the M18 batteries and the M12.
I saw that. They look like they turned out great, man.
I printed 4. My 4th one I was having a little bit of an issue with. I took it to work to show the guys and, see what their feedback was with it. And when I put it on a battery at home, it worked okay. But as soon as I brought it to the shop, I had a different battery. I think it was like a 5.0. And it was really snug. Well, what happened was the print kind of messed up, I guess, and created these little ridges on the inside that were higher than all the other ones. So what I did was I had to take a file and file it down. But once I got it filed down so nice and smooth, it was perfect. And actually, a buddy of mine, he has it in his toolbox right now, and he's using it every day. And it's been, holding up. And he's got it stuck in his toolbox with some real strong 3M tape, not even screwed in, and nothing's broken so far, so I'm kind of happy about that. And I'm not doing 100% infill, because if I did, it would have taken, I think, like 40 days to print just one.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm doing about like 25 to 30%.
Oh, you're diving into the settings a lot more than I have. I've basically been taking things with Thingiverse and printing them off because I'm trying to fine tune my 3D printing. And once I get that done and the machine is tuned, that's when I'll start diving into the software.
Yeah, the only reason I kind of knew about that was on the very first time when I did the radius jig, the corner radius jig. It was going to take, I think, like 12 hours to print. And I'm like, why is it taking so long? So my father knew a little bit more about it than I did. So he's like, well, go here, check the infill and whatnot. And I did, and they were all set to 100. I have run into it where Thingiverse, the maker of it, actually sets it at 100. So once you import it, it's set for 100% infill. So I can actually go in and tweak it a little bit, and then it's still strong. I mean, I literally took it in my hands. I could not crack it in half. So, I mean, to me, that's going to stand up to a battery just sliding in and out of it. And why print something that can take those M18 ones are taking 3.5 hours. If I was to do 100% infill, I think they've rated it almost like 16 hours. So in that 16-hour time, I could already have a few of them made. So I go, it's not like I'm beating on it with a hammer. Like I said, a battery's going to live in it the whole life. So, but anyway, 3D print's going. That's really going good. I just got commissioned for another flag. They want something carved into the Union, actually the U.S. Air Force insignia. So that's coming up. And I got a few other flags that are in the make. Trying to think of what else. Drum sander. I got to talk to you about a drum sander issue, and I want to see what your take is on it.
Okay.
I did talk to Pete over at Petrie's Workshop about it because he has the same exact one that I got. So at this point, my drum sander, I had some walnut that I glued up. Oh my God, the biggest thing that I'm forgetting is my wedding projects. My wedding's coming up in 24 days. How many days?
Which he did not forget.
She confirmed that it is 24 because I'm very forgetful. I probably would have waited until the last day to do this. But anyway, I got a lot of...
Day 23?
Yeah, exactly. It would have been literally the day of, and I would have been like, I'm missing something. Oh my God, I got to do these signs.
Have your tux on and be in there like carving.
Go to the wedding full of sawdust. It would be great. But
it'd be a Sawdust Nation wedding.
It would be. It would be. So I glued up some rustic walnut that I bought from Boards and Beams, which is a local lumber yard. And the reason that they call it rustic is it has a lot of knots, a lot of voids. It's kind of the junk wood that not a lot of people would want. And I picked it up because it was my very first time going there. And I saw walnut at a reasonable price. And I said, I'm going to buy a lot of it. And I did. And now I am using it for the first time. And I think that was over a year ago that I bought it. So anyway, Kim looked at it. She said, that piece, let's use that for a sign. And when I glued it up, because it's not perfectly even, so once I glued it up, I had one flat surface and the other surface definitely wasn't as nice. So I ran it through the drum sander, and my issue with the drum sander is I'm running 80 grit paper. And after I got it down to a good thickness, I noticed I have a lot of lines left in it from the grit. So I hit it with the Mirka at 100 grit, and it wouldn't take the lines out. So I'm like, this is kind of strange. And I even went nice and slow, tried a few different ways on it. And I reached out to Pete. I was like, hey, I got to ask you something because you have the same drum sander. And he actually reached out to me and said, I'm using 36 grit. I get bad lines and my Mirka takes it out no problem. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to kind of counteract it with the Mirka and try to do it with 80 grit paper. Maybe then I'll take care of all those vertical lines. Anyway, enough about my rant. I'm going to get into, I don't remember what we call it, some stuff in your shop.
Some stuff on my work surface. We got to work on that.
At this point, I think I got a good one. So Josh, what projects are going to haunt you in your workshop?
What am I working on? Wood. Lots and lots of wood. Don't you dare laugh. This is a family show. Yep.
I can't even say. I'm done.
Anyway, so I've been talking about those couch shelves, and I actually got one out of the garage, the workshop the other day. They came to pick it up, and that was the one that was going only to just before sanding finish. So I went up to about 120 and I said, do you want me to go any further? They're like, no, we're not sure what we want to do with it. So that's fine. So they came, they picked it up. The first thing the guy said was like, wow, that's beautiful. I'm like, that's good news because it's not, I've never sold an unfinished piece of furniture. So like for me to give them something that's like half done in my mind, I was so worried about it because, there's a lot that I do during that process. It's a lot of care and maintenance and to get it to looking perfect. And, giving them something that's only been sanded to what I said, 120 was kind of like, well, here you go. But, they loved it. They took it home and, they'll be finishing it at some point in time. I have one more in the shop and, we're going to get to that one at the end of my rant here.
We don't rant. Remember that.
I'm almost done with the cornhole boards that I'm working on. I am so grateful that I have taken notes from my first set to this set. I've modified them just a little bit because I learned a little bit from last time and I've got some measurements, simple stuff, but for the most part, it's gone fairly smoothly. The legs, I'm actually going to make some people out there make a lot of these, so they're going to laugh at this, but, for some reason I can't drill the hole where I could just, make that perfect curve and just rotate up. I always have to make like an offset to make them so they roll up. It's the way that I've been doing it, but I'm just going to make a template and I can trace that each time and call it a day. Easily solved many different ways. That's my fix. But I actually got to go visit New Jersey Wood Forever's new location. So that field trip did happen and I got to check out their new facility and what they want to do with it. Man, I'm telling you, this building and the surrounding area has so much potential. I cannot wait to see what happens with it. I'm really hoping that he gets to open up soon and get some slabs in there and I get to go pick up some more wood from our lumber yard because, I used a couple pieces. Now I need to restock.
Nice.
So that was really fun. I want to reach out and say, hey man, Mike, thank you for inviting me down and letting me take a look around with you. It was definitely a pleasure and I had a great time. That's New Jersey Wood Forever. If you ever heard of them, look them up on Instagram at New Jersey spelled out Wood Forever and follow him. Great guy. He has a lot of experience in woodworking. Okay, so what else have we got? I actually got a new drum sander.
You did?
I found a unicorn.
Did you mention
that?
Yeah,
I did. I don't know if you heard. I don't think so. Earlier? You weren't listening. But I got a new drum sander. Yeah, I found a drum sander on Marketplace for a great price. And I picked it up. I have it. I actually used it for the first time today. Yeah. Got some sandpaper in the other day. I put some on there and it saved me time. I mean, even after I went and put the sandpaper on and kind of messed around with it, I was only sanding the legs of the cornhole boards, which is nothing, I already planed them down, so it wasn't that much. I had 120 on there, ran them through, and I'm like, wow, that saved me time. I have nowhere to put it right now. So I threw it on my micro jig dovetail bench and I went and just used it on there and it worked great. So I cannot wait to utilize that more because there's been times in the past where I needed to sand a whole lot of stuff. And if I could have sanded all to 120 almost, by itself, that would have saved me a whole lot of sanding. So I am super stoked to have that in the shop. So I have also sold a couple items from my inventory. I actually sold a coat hanger and one of my laser engraved signs. And that's always nice to get some things out the door. Oh, let's talk about spar real quick. So I went ahead and finished up the swing for my neighbor. I got the hardware in. I went ahead and sprayed the spar on it. Learned, a couple things doing that. It actually sprays really good with any mineral oil or anything. So I was really surprised because when I painted it on for the first coat, it was just thick. But that gun handled it great. I mean, I just put it on a little bit higher than a setting than I normally did. I went across it a little faster and it had a great finish. We had a rainstorm basically after I installed it and I went over just to, double check it. And
nice.
No, I mean, it was perfect. People were using it. So it's great to see that. But going back to the couple issues I've had this last week. I guess it's my therapy lesson from last week. Let's get into the one couch shelf. I let it sit just for a little bit longer so I can finish the other one real quick or semi-finish and get it out the door so I can concentrate totally on finishing the next one because the next one is going to be finished completely. I didn't want it to be, drying while I'm trying to sand something else. So I went back to it, and I was ready to pull it out to do all the sanding I need to do on it. And I'm looking at it, and one of the legs are like tilted up. And I'm like, that ain't good. They were flat at one point in time.
Wow.
So I sat there and I looked at it, and the board twisted. It definitely probably wasn't dry enough. And sitting in my shop, it dried out a little bit more and ended up twisting. But I contacted the customer, told them what needs to happen, and I'm just kind of waiting for what they would like me to do so I can continue building this thing, because essentially I'm going to have to cut that piece out and then replace it with a untwisted piece, and we'll see how that goes, and I'll get back to you guys. The other issue is my 3D printer. So a while back, I don't know if I mentioned this on here or not, but I installed the new silent card on it, and I upgraded the firmware to accept a bed leveling device called BL Touch, and it basically fried the card. So my printer's been down for a while. I've been waiting for the new card to come in. I couldn't get to installing it because I was busy, but I finally got it in, got it working, and it's been pretty much working nonstop since I installed it. In fact, once I figured out some issues with it, other than the card, it has only taken one night off. So I've been making some shop jigs, sanding jigs, jigs, you name it. Currently, I'm printing a little box for some shelves that go underneath it so I could store some tools and whatnot in there. It's actually on its almost 13th, almost 14th hour right now. So,
wow.
Yeah, it's the highest it's gone on the Z-axis. It's kind of cool because I haven't seen, it go that high. Kind of geeky, but whatever. But real quick, one of the problems I had with it is once I figured out the card and everything was working and I leveled the bed, I went to go ahead and print some dovetail jigs. And when I did, I was printing during the night. I come down just to check on it, and I see that there's filament was getting thinner and thinner and thinner. And the first thought was like, okay, maybe I'm running out. So I check. I don't have a sensor on there. I check, and I have plenty of filament, which I kind of knew in the back of my head. I'm like, what is going on? So I stopped the print, go back to bed, wake up the next day. I'm like, okay, what's going on? And what I found is my extruder, the gear that pulls in the actual filament, had dropped down on the shaft and wasn't able to grab the filament. It was turning, it was doing everything it should have been doing, but it wasn't able to pull it in. So, I fixed that, tried again. And earlier in the print, it happens again. I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure I know what happened. So I look and it dropped down again. So I cranked that gear up pretty high, and it's been working since. And it's been printing great. I joined the Facebook group, and I've seen some of the prints they have, and this is a very capable printer, and I'm incredibly grateful that I got it. That's what's happening in my shop. I still have cornhole boards that are basically almost done. I gotta do spar on them and get those dry, and then they'll be pretty much out the shop, and then figure out the issue with the shelf and what the client wants to be done with that. I've gotten less and less in there, which is nice. And D-Day, delivery day, whatever you want to call it, I assume is getting closer because, you can only be in there so long.
Yeah, right? Well, sounds like you got a lot on your plate. It definitely does. So we can get into, I don't know. Oh, actually, I meant to ask you, did you filter your spar or did you just dump it?
Oh, I just dumped it in there.
Okay.
I tried it on a tiny test piece. I'm like, okay. And that's how I knew I needed to increase a little bit because I thought about it. My, the water base is a little thinner. Oil's a little thicker. I increased and I actually went the same speed just to see how, and it just caked on, pulled up. Went and did it a little faster and it was just this nice layer.
Yep.
It turned out great. They enjoy it. I love how it looks over there. And, I got some shop time and got some stuff done and sold some stuff this week. So I can't complain. I had a pretty good week.
Yeah, I was asking if you filtered it because I mentioned it on the last episode about, I said 5 micron filter. It's actually 190 micron filter.
Oh, so you were off just by, a little
185. It's like, it's close. I mean,
yeah,
it's
like a fart in the wind.
I guess, yeah. But I just wanted to clarify that because I didn't want to sound like too much of an idiot. But they are 190 microns. They work really well. I got them off of Amazon in 100 pack for $12. So
yeah,
worked out real well.
I don't want to hear about your little math issue because the last episode I thought I was using Verathane spar and I was using a completely different one. So I mean, I don't want to hear about your issues, man.
You had me
that was last
up.
episode. This This is my episode.
You had me tripped up so much. I'm like, okay, Minwax? No, Varathane. So it's a Varathane. Minwax. And I'm like, wait, I don't think they're the same company.
No, not at all. Not even close.
It's all right.
I listened to the episode myself, and I'm like, man, who's that guy?
Don't worry. I got a good laugh out of it. You got a good laugh. That's all that matters. So anyway, with all that going on, definitely got a lot in both of our shops. I'm really excited also to dive into that French cleat wall. I do have the piece that's it's cut, and everything else is kind of taking priority, especially the wedding projects. I almost said the wedding products. So, but the French cleat wall is definitely going to be done. I'm hoping I actually got off Monday, or this Monday coming for Labor Day. So I'll have an extra day in the shop, hopefully. And I'll be able to do some more stuff. So I'm hoping to get those. It's a lot of hope in my shop. I hope to get a lot of projects done. I hope to finish this, So anyway, I'm planning, different word. I'm planning to get a lot of projects done.
Words are good.
I mean, the wedding ones are kind of easy because I just literally set it on the CNC. I kind of set it and forget it, and then go back. And then the wedding projects, I'm going to be pouring my first epoxy pour, and it arrived in the mail today. And I was like a little kid on Christmas running to the front door when the Amazon guy showed up.
We talked about epoxy a little bit. What did you settle on for type?
Okay. And the reason that I settled on it is because there was a gentleman who I talked to on Instagram a while back about it. And I believe I'm going to have to look him up, but he uses Total Boat. That's all he uses. And I saw a few things that he had made. So I just reached out to him real quick and said, I'm new to it. What can you tell me? And what he told me was he's using the high performance. He's actually get off the couch design on Instagram. When I talked to him, he showed me that he's using the high performance 2-to-1 ratio. He was actually using the slow hardener. I could not buy the slow one. I had to buy the fast or medium. And for some reason, I guess I clicked on fast. So that's what came. But I am going to use that because I had talked to him about it. Because my biggest concern when I was talking to him was I had big dreams, like, the dream shop. But I had a big dream of making this massive river table that was going to literally consume my life. And I wanted to know how much I could pour in one shot. So I was going through some messages and come to find out that this one would be kind of the best for my application. And so I picked it up. I picked up the high performance fast. It came with the pumps, the mixing, not a bowl. I can't even think. It's the quart.
Cups.
Yeah, it's the quart cup container. So, and the best thing of all, it came with a sticker. So I'll be able to put that on something.
What?
Yeah, buddy.
I've ordered from them multiple times and I haven't got a sticker.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a Total Boat sticker sitting downstairs right now.
Jeez, I'm going to write a letter.
They also sent me a hat, a t-shirt, a boat that says Total Boat on it.
They did not.
Yeah, you're right. I wish.
Yeah, exactly. You're pulling my leg. You had my goat there for a minute. Bah.
They also sent me a nice big banner that I get to hang up in my shop.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're having technical difficulties. AJ can no longer talk through his mic, so I'm going to be talking the rest of the episode.
So anyway, no, I'm still here.
Damn.
I know. A lot of people out there are saying, thank God he's gone. Oh, he's back again. But anyway, so I get to...
Can't get rid of me.
I get to do that maybe tomorrow when I get home from work. I'll hop in the garage. I almost said I was going to... I don't know why I'm so tripping up on words today. I almost said I'm going to hop in the jacuzzi.
You have a jacuzzi?
No, I don't.
Well, we're learning a whole bunch of things.
Where the hell am I going to jump in whatever. I don't even know where I am today. So anyway, the Total Boat is going to get used with some black diamond pigment in copper because then we're going to pour that on the walnut piece to kind of not pop out so much, but I believe it's going to look kind of nice on that. And then here's my biggest concern is we're going to engrave the lettering onto the walnut, but not sure if we're going to paint it or pour epoxy into the lettering as well. And here's my concern about doing that is I want to showcase the lettering. I mean, even though it's only going to be literally 8 people at our wedding and it's going to be family, I still want it to look pretty cool, because that V-bit from Tools Today works fantastic on giving it a good carve. So I don't want to hide that with the epoxy, but I'm not sure if we want to paint or pour epoxy.
I personally, it's your wedding, in your project, but I personally would go ahead and pour all the voids and stuff like that with the copper because it's going to look really good. And then I would mask the piece and carve it, and so you can paint it because the paint's going to allow for the carve to pop. The epoxy is going to be more of
a filler.
It's going to a filler, yeah. You're not going to see that carve, the V groove.
Yeah.
If you use clear, maybe, but even then, like. If you use any kind of pigment with it, it's going to cover it.
Yeah, that was kind of my thought. I'm thinking because it's it's new to me. Epoxy's brand new, so I was like, let's just epoxy everything. The cornhole board.
Hide the cat.
I'm gonna epoxy that. I'm gonna epoxy this, that, the other thing. So it was thinking about it. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do everything in it. And now exactly what you said. I want the epoxy to show in the voids, but I want the carve to show elsewhere. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to stick with the copper and into the voids. And then I think we're going to also do epoxy maybe on something else. I'm just not sure yet. But this will be my very first time doing it. And I'm kind of excited about doing it because I love seeing the videos. And now I get to do it. So it's definitely... I'll probably be messaging you, and actually I want to bounce something off of you because I see people use torches, heat guns, kind of any heat source. Is there any warnings that you would give me after I pour it?
Don't get too close with a torch or even the heat gun, because you can almost like dry the top layer a little bit and push it around. I used to use a torch and it works fine. But heat gun, you can pretty much angle it any position. You can have a high, low. You can put it down. I found it a better usage with that than I did the actual torch. But I mean, if you don't want to go ahead and buy one, don't. But if you already have one in the shop, I would use a heat gun.
Yeah, I got one actually at my regular job that's got high and low, and also it's got a dial from 1 through 7. So I got pretty good variation.
I would use that.
Okay, so I'll pick that. I'll bring that home tomorrow from work.
You only need enough heat to pop the bubbles. That's all you're doing.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought. But I'm almost thinking something that's a resin. I didn't know how not caustic it is, but I'm thinking of putting a torch to it. I was worried like it would. Almost like how stain, if you literally stain something and then put a torch to it, it's going to ignite. I didn't know if this had any properties that would make it almost ignite.
I mean, there's always the thermal reaction that it could have if mixed, pour too fast or sat too long or not mixed correctly. I've seen that with a couple of my pieces where I mixed what I thought was appropriate amount, add the pigment, everything was mixed fine, the base layer. I went to go pour a little bit more and I poured it too deep and I didn't mix it that well in the second batch and I had some thermal reaction. I was able to fix it with another pour on top of it and call it a day. So, I mean, you're going to have these learning curves with it, and some pours are going to go, pretty easy and other pours are not. Just don't get too crazy with it. And you can always fix it with, one additional pour to fill in the holes or whatever, because it's going to bubble. Yeah, you're not going to catch all the bubbles. Like, if you do, good on you, because I haven't been able to do that. So, don't be too hard on yourself if you miss a couple.
Yeah. I mean, I'm lucky enough on this one, I don't have to worry about anything really big. So even if there were a couple bubbles, the voids are small enough that it's like you'd never see them.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be crystal clear, so you won't, with the copper, I'm thinking that's going to even hide stuff. Unless there's a big bubble that pops on top while it's drying, and I could probably sand that down as well. So, but it's going to be a fun process. I took all the stuff out of the box, set it on the table, took a nice Instagram photo of it, and that I'll post up later on. It was cool because I'd never used it before, and just to have it in my shop finally is a real nice treat. So I can't wait to use it, and I can't wait to update everybody on it.
I can't wait to see the content you create with that, because epoxy takes time, and you can actually make a lot of content with that because of it. Because, you know, there's the mixing, adding the pigment, the first pour, you know, when you pull it out of the mold, or in your case, it's probably just going to tape the bottom or whatever. But, yeah, man, it's going to be pretty cool watching you go through that.
Yeah. Yeah. And the only other new thing that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be making my first charcuterie board.
Dun, dun, dun.
I know. I do like everything quintessential, like everybody that already has done it, you know, a million times over. And I'm making it sound like it's like this new thing that I just found. Hey, did you know about charcuterie boards?
See, I guess I'm a bad woodworker here. So I make cutting boards, but some of them might just turn into, you know, serving boards. I mean, like some of them are like, I look at it, I'm like, yeah, I'd rather just sell that as a serving board versus this or that, or let the customer decide, do you want handles? You know what I'm saying? Because essentially that's all the difference is a handle, or that's about it. I mean, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I see, you know, either smaller and has handles.
Mm-hmm. And usually, yeah, I'm of course I want to do one like that, like whimsical kind of look to it. So it's got, you know, a curved handle, a different, like a tapered front or a rounded front. It's just not like a square piece, if that makes sense.
I just give them chalk. I take a 2x4, I cut off a piece and put handles on it, and here you go.
That's why that's not what you're supposed to do.
No, that's what I do. They love them.
Oh,
I say the fire pit out back.
I was going to say, I'm not going to use 2x4s. I'm going to use Douglas fir 2x12s. I'm actually going to use pressure treat.
Yes, great for food. Okay. Well, first of all, we're kidding. You cannot use pressure treated wood and actually use that for any kind of food service. This is a public service announcement. Do not do that.
Oh, man. Anyway, enough joshing around. You see what I did there?
Oh, he used my name as a joke. No, you did not.
Anyway, enough of this fooling around.
Okay, so drum sander issue. What issue are you having with your drum sander?
Didn't I get into this earlier? Are you not listening to me at this episode? This is making me extremely sad.
Apparently not.
Come on, I thought we're a team. We're a team at this.
I was, God damn it, don't get me crying on this episode.
Okay, so anyway, yeah, so that whole issue, that what I got to do to try to counteract it, I'm going to actually try 80 grit Arbanet for my Merca and see if that works. I'm almost thinking, because I'm using 80 grit on the drum, I used 100 on the Merca, and it, for some reason, and you know what, I'm gonna just put it out there. The lines are so minute, but I know they're there. And once I clear it, they're really going to show. I already had this happen to me on a couple projects. Luckily, they were for the house, so they weren't going to somebody. But I noticed the lines really showed after I cleared it. I'm going, where did these lines come from? And next thing I know, they're from the drum sander. And it could be because the paper I'm using, I had gotten from the guy I bought it from. He had brand new rolls that were sitting underneath. It's like, you know, one of those really long rolls that you cut your own.
Yeah.
So he had a whole bunch of it. I think he's got like 150 grit, 80 grit, I think 60 as well. So I stuck with the 80 because I wanted to use that for taking a lot of glue squeeze out, level boards, whatnot. I'm not looking for a finish sanding because I'd rather just use my, you know, the Merco or the DeWalt to finish it with. And so I'm using the 80, and I'm looking at these lines, and they're just all over the place. But for some reason, 100 grit Arbanet was not taking it out, and I'm really not sure why. So like I said, I reached out to Pete. He explained, Pete from Petrie's Workshop. He explained a couple things to me and bounced a couple ideas off of him, and that's kind of where I came up with the maybe try the 80 grit Arbanet to see if it kind of counteracts it. I'm hoping it comes out because I know they're there and I know I'll see them the whole time it's at the wedding and then once it's hung up in our house. So if those lines don't come out, don't tell Kim, but it's going in the fire pit.
She listens to this. You know that, right?
Yeah, I know. And I was waiting for her to laugh in the background. She heard me.
Yeah, man. Sorry about that. But let's switch over. We do have a question from the infamous Larry that we haven't got to. So I would like to hit on that. If someone wants to do a project, someone that has just started out, do you think it's better for them to follow already established plans, like ones you buy online, or create or design their own plans or project?
I would 100% say, for me, it was easier for me to follow plans. Well, it's a 50-50 with me. When I first started out, I had plans that I got online, and the plans kind of were tailored to how they did it. Even though I still, I had the tools that they were using because it was like, limited tool kind of plan. So you didn't need a full cabinet saw, but it was the way they verbed it, the way they measured it, the way they laid it out inside the instructions was very difficult to understand. And being somebody new into woodworking, it really threw me for a loop. So I struggled with those plans. So if I was to start over again, and I would still probably start out with some established plans, but maybe look a little bit harder for maybe ones that I can understand instead of just jumping at the very first ones that I find online. And then you'll get into creating and designing your own plans. I still use plans today.
Really?
I just did the miter cart for Tiffany, and I did that literally to the plans, and it was actually very well written, very well detailed, and it was a very simple build, but the way they wrote it out, even a beginner could, follow along with no knowledge of woodworking, and they could follow along 100%. It was really, I wish I had the plans next to me. I would shout out who it is, but they were on Instagram. I saw they posted it up. She got back to me and said, "Hey, I'm building the plans, so just give me, a couple of weeks." And next thing you know, I think there's a YouTube video out as well. And the plans you can buy online, I think for like a couple bucks. And I have to say they were definitely well worth it. How about yourself?
I've never used plans.
I'm just sorry. At this point, you should just buy 3 saw stops.
Well, why not? I'm that good already.
Am I a terrible word worker at this point because I have a Merca and I still use plans? Should I just get rid of the Merca? I'm going to throw it out. You know what?
No, you just send it my way. I'll take care of it.
I'm going to throw it in the fire pit.
Oh, no, don't do that. We send it in a little bit of a boat and then throw some fire in it. Give it a Viking funeral.
I'm actually going to put the DeWalt random orbit in the Merca box and just set the Merca on the ground.
Who are you? Well, we just took a hard right turn right there. No, I've never used plans. I don't know why. I'm the kind of guy that will get something and I won't read the directions. I just put it together. It's bit me a couple times, but for the most part, that's how I operate. So my first project, the bookshelves I mentioned, just a couple of times, I built those entirely myself with, what I drew up in my head and everything else essentially. I just recently started to write down like all my plans and draw them up. That way I can reference them again because, business is picking up just a little bit and some people want the same things. So instead of having to recreate it, I've written down the measurements and what I used and how I did it. That way I can go back. So maybe I should recant my statement and say that I have not used plans from others, but I've used my own plans that I've scribbled up.
Okay.
So to answer the question, because that's not the question, I really think it's a 50-50 thing too. It depends on who you are. For me, I think I learned a lot more by not using plans because there was a huge learning curve to try to figure out what is possible and not possible and what tool did what, did this. with plans, if you're not that type of person, it might, be better for you to sit down and be like, okay, step 1, step 2, step 3, and you might learn better that way.
I had my very first project I did by plans. It was the coffee table. And all I have to say is the plans were not that good, because when I went to go do a certain thing on this project, I put the wood up exactly how they told me to. I measured it out exactly how they told me to, because they had a cut list prior. So you cut everything. So now I have a whole pile of wood. I'm putting it together. Everything else is kind of coming together fine. And then it was actually a farmhouse coffee table. So on the edge of the farmhouse tables, there's an X, inside the legs. One piece was supposed to be X amount of inches, and the other piece was supposed to be X amount of inches. And when I laid it out, I made the square exactly how they wanted of the leg, laid the one piece on the inside to make one leg of the X, if that makes sense. And it was too short. It wouldn't go in. And I measured it 1,001 times and made sure I didn't screw up. And I did it exactly to the plans. And come to find out, it was too short. They actually needed to be like 2 inches longer. So I don't know if it might have been a mistake on their end, or maybe they were doing it differently. But I mean, everything was to the T. I had it. I put it on. I go to mark like the underside to cut the angles correct for the X, and it wasn't lining up. And I'm going like, I'm scratching my head going, I'm reading it right. I cut it right. So now I actually ran out of wood because I bought just enough. Because it was early on, so I bought just enough that they told me. They said, I forget what it was. It was all out of construction grade 2x4s. So I bought 4. They told me to, and now I'm out. And now I got to wait to go back to the big box store to go grab more. But I wasted time. I wasted material. Yeah, I was learning, and I learned to not trust plans 100%. And it bit me.
So in the beginning, I wasn't using plans, but when I was doing things, I would, have certain measurements, and I wasn't doing references. I was doing measurements. And I learned quickly the fastest, most effective way to do anything is reference. So you cut, you need 4 with the same length board. Make a stop block. Cut to that because you can measure twice, 3 times, 4 times, and you will still somehow mess that up. At least I did. So I do a lot of reference stuff, and it's definitely helped me increase speed and, how everything goes together. Because if I need, 10 of one thing, I can quickly knock out 10. They're all the same length. I'm not wasting time measuring. Everything seems to go together a lot easier. If I was using plans, I would almost do the same thing. Use their plans, but if you modify something, say they want 2 1/4, and you don't really care about how long this end product will be, make it 2. And then reference everything off of that, make your multiple cuts, and then, ratio and proportion it so it all comes out easier measurements. Because when you're first starting out, someone out there might not know, everything on a tape measure, and those big hash marks might be easier to reference. What I'm trying to say is plans are great to follow, but even if I used them, I don't think I'd follow them to a T. I would follow them, in my own way to make it work.
About my second project was a ladder shelf. So it had I think the very first one I made was 4 tiers. The plans, they weren't even plans. The picture showed a picture with dimensions around it. And it was a real bad drawing of it. I could barely read it. But when I read it, I kind of got an idea. So because my thing was, okay, I need it to lean against the wall. So now I have to deal with angles. What's my angle got to be from the floor to the door to make sure that it lays against the wall flat and sits on the floor fine? Then I had to think of how can I make the shelves follow that ladder but still have a reveal on the back end. And so I had to take a picture, and I still used my own creative brain and made it work from there. So all I did was I referenced off a picture with some dimensions. It didn't have everything, but it had some crucial ones that I needed to actually make it. And then the next one I built was actually a 6 tier. So all I did was I just retooled my thinking still used the same picture so I had some kind of reference, and it came out great. It was exactly what the customer wanted. It was what I wanted and how I wanted it. It sat against the wall fine and, perfect on the floor.
Would you call those plans, though? Because I've done the same thing. I've had customers come up and go, hey, I want this, I want these dimensions. And I've used those dimensions to create it, but I wouldn't call those plans. I'd call that referencing.
It's some sort of plan to me, only because, this was actually I think there was a write-up on it, but I never went as far. I never went past the picture because I found the picture. I was like, oh, this is perfect. To me, if I had a book of plans, I could technically throw that in there and still consider it, a reference of a plan, maybe, if we're getting technical.
Yeah. I mean, technically, I think you're right. My big book of secrets that I'm using, it's a Calavera shop notebook that I purchased from them. And it's a nice leather notebook. It includes like 2 notepads in there. And I used the front section as a laser engraver notebook for different projects. And the second section is for all the woodworking. So anything I think I'm going to have to recreate or want to recreate later, I reference all the, small measurements and stuff in there and try to make my life a little easier to recreate that. So in some sense, I think I have referenced other plans, I guess, if we're going by that, and use them. And then I'm using my own plans I create as I make some of these projects. But to kind of wrap that question up, you really got to know what kind of person you are. If you buy a piece of furniture or you with assembly required and you sit there and read every instruction, it has everything. I'm talking about step 1, step 2, step 3, and that's how you put it together. Start with plans. That's probably going to be more comfortable for you. If you're the kind of person like me, I dump it on the floor and I'm like, that piece goes with this piece goes with that, and just kind of figure it out. You might want to try just to do your own plans. And even if you mess up, which you probably will in your first project, you're going to learn something either way, using plans or not.
Speaking of kind of plans, or references, you have a book, I have a book. I never write anything down. I write it down when I remember to, which isn't very often. I actually talked to you the other night about a desk that I want to build with some, cubbies and whatnot. I told you I was going to draw it out. Of course, I never did. When you do your laser engraving, how do you save your files? Because, and I'll share this, I save all my CNC files with the height, width, and thickness of the piece, because really you deal with the width and height. But yeah, I save it with all the measurements, the bit that I'm using, and just a little snippet of what the customer, what it might be for, if it's for a flag, if it's for a sign, I'll write the sign lettering out, like a real small thing. And just so I can go back into my files and, okay, I have to recreate that now. Here's the file for that exact size. I know what bit I have to change out to, into the spindle. So I'm curious on you if you save your laser engraving kind of sort of like that.
Not at all.
Do you just hit new and then new 1 and then new 2?
Yep, that way I have to go through every single file. No. So a lot of the laser engraving I do is essentially the same thing. They want something engraved. It's not a picture. It's nothing really too complicated. It's complicated in the sense that a laser is going to do it, and I'm not going to. But so, you come at me with you want a nameplate. Well, I know the settings right off the bat because I know what piece of wood I'm going to use, everything. If I'm going to use balsa, it's going to be a 2000 speed with 100%. If I use, some different like maple or something, it's probably going to be maybe just a little bit slower because it's a harder wood. I do a test cut at the speed I think, which I start at 2000 and 100%. And if it's too dark or, not dark enough, I slow it down. It depends on what I'm seeing. I don't have a lot of notes for the laser engraver just because every project's just a little different. I do have it for if I want to cut out some balsa wood or whatnot, but even that I don't do much anymore because I have the maker, Cricut Maker that I have the right spindle for, and if I need a shape, I'll go on there and I'll have it cut out the shape, and then I take it to the laser engraver, set it up, and then print that. So there's still a lot of capability. I'm still working with the laser. The way I'm using it, it's getting its work out, and I have a lot of the same settings for pretty much every project. I do and have been working on a cut card, which is essentially for a laser engraver where you start at setting 10% of the laser at 2000. And then you go up in increments. That way you can see on a particular piece of wood what it does. So I have that set up with a typical settings that I use so I can see what it does. Yeah, I haven't done a lot of pictures, and that's where it gets a little more fine detail and a little bit more tinkering because you have to use with different on and off settings and PMW, I believe. Yeah, and mine's not so complicated because removing the Z-axis, and I just have to, fine tune the laser I engrave. I mean, most of the time you can't go too deep with it, and you can just go light to light, and if you do, go over it again.
Yeah. I was just curious because when I first got to CNC, I had my book of like information of projects and whatnot, and I actually even flipped it all the way over and started writing CNC info. So I was going to say like, okay, on this project, I ran, the setting was this for the feed rate, this for the plunge rate, yada, yada, yada. But the more I went into it, I noticed that for the projects that I'm doing, whatever the program calls for, because Aspire actually works with Amana Tools. So I actually downloaded their whole tool file. So
nice.
I can, it's actually really, really nice. So I pick the exact tool. It's just like if I'm using an end mill, I don't pick just 1/4 inch end mill, upcut, downcut. I actually pick the exact end mill that I'm using, and it knows how fast it should be going, plunging, feeding, and all that. So it's actually kind of nice. I can still tweak it, which I have in the past, but for the most part, for the stuff that I've been using, knock on wood, I haven't had any kind of issue with it. I literally set it. I have the bit go through it. I have had a few scary moments of the noises that the CNC does make cutting through the wood, but I have to say every bit that I've used so far has been cutting flawless. And I haven't had anything snap on me, which is really, really good because I'm afraid those bits when they're going through that wood, I sometimes literally cower in the corner a little bit and look at it like, okay, I'm waiting for it to snap, and somehow it powers through and gets that cut done. But some of those, I told you about the cutting board when I did the juice groove. I'm telling you, that was, I swore the whole CNC machine was just going to explode into a million parts. That thing was so loud, I think my neighbors across the street heard it.
As you use these machines, you become familiar with them enough where writing down every detail for every job, you don't really need to because you know what to expect. Or you find some setting like, Amana Tool setting where you can just, import it. And I'm telling you, Time Saver is a program you use. We talked about this before. I downloaded that new program and it shaves hours off what I used to have to do. So a lot of stuff in there, I could do layers and whatever, and I can even have it laser engrave in different layers at different times. So I can layer whatever. So, I mean, I don't need to save as much detail. The only really the only thing I really write down for that nowadays is something different. Like if I engraved on walnut the other time with the hammers, I'll save that setting because I want to know on walnut what works really good.
Yep. So you dabble a little into it, by saving it kind of what the project might be.
Oh, yeah. I'll save the file as Thor hammers. And I actually have that file, has all the cuts in it, ready to go. And I could do it again instantly. I just don't go any further than that, really, because it actually saves all that stuff in the program.
Yeah, it saves it, in Aspire, same way.
It's all G-code. Everything we're using that's automatic is G-code. Even our 3D printers is G-code.
The main reason that I kind of put the height, width, and thickness of it is so that I don't have to make another file. Especially actually, I just had it happen to me. I had to carve something on a stripe for a flag, and I had to actually redo it. So instead of me remaking it, I already had it, and I just had to tweak one little thing in it, and then it literally was set. The correct bit I knew was in there, the correct file, the correct path. So it was good that I saved it the way I did. And it's nice because then if that same customer comes back to you and says, "Hey, can you make a duplicate?" It just saves time too. Doing it. It's like writing it down, except it's stored on my computer at this point.
Yeah, no, definitely nothing wrong with that. I mean, like if I really wanted to do that too, I could always make a new layer and then type right on the interface.
Yeah. I was just curious about that. We went down a huge rabbit hole like this whole episode. We'd go out in a rabbit hole, out one, back in, down one.
Alice in Wonderland style, man.
Jesus.
Alice in Wonderland style.
Definitely.
But I think that's going to wrap it up for this episode. So thank you for joining us for our 10th episode. We appreciate all you guys' support. And if you have any questions, you can always DM myself at North Country Woodworking or AJ at Crafted in NJ. We also have an email.
sawdustnationpodcast@gmail.com. And since it is our 10th episode, for the next 10 podcast listeners, if you message me whenever you hear this, I'll send you out a nice sticker. Autographed by yours truly, AJ.
How are we going to know if they're the first 10?
I'll know. I will know, my friend.
We know all. We're listening. We're talking.
No, I'm just joking. Whoever messages me gets a free sticker. And if you want me to, I'll sign it.
I'm glad we talked about this beforehand because I actually thought about the same thing today.
I think you're copying me at this point.
It's copyrighted. My ideas, every single.
All right. So what I'll do is I'll send you a piece of spalted maple with my sticker. Not a huge piece. You can't do anything with it.
Is it going to be like a half-inch by half-inch square?
Yeah, it's pretty much.
Honestly, if you DM us and want a sticker from either one of us, we will send you a sticker. And we're going to be working on stickers for the Sawdust Nation podcast as well. And if you're interested in that, go ahead and reach out.
And definitely, whoever wants that 6.5-inch cornhole board, it's up for grabs.
It'd be really easy to get in the hole.
Yeah, exactly. You can throw a small child through it.
Hey, I'm having one of those soon. But yeah, we're going to wrap this up. I don't know how.
Cornhole with cantaloupes. Show title right there. Cornhole with cantaloupes.
Cantaloupe cornhole or cantaloupe cornhole. Yeah, cantaloupe cornhole.
Cornhole cantaloupe.
Yeah, there we go.
That's what I just said 3 times.
I can't hear you. You're laughing too much. This ain't funny. We're supposed to be serious on this thing.
Yes. I don't know how to be serious. All I do is I literally joke around all day long, and then I come on here and then joke more for an hour and change.
So, in all seriousness, send us a DM or contact us with any questions that you have. And if you want stickers, we're willing to give them out. So go ahead. And if you're interested in the Sawdust Nation podcast sticker, go ahead, let us know. And we're going to be getting those made here sometime in the future. Some changes are going to be made to the Sawdust Nation podcast, and we might have some good news coming up. So keep listening, and hopefully we can share that soon.
If you're a maker of any sort, woodworker, metalworker, anything that you're doing in the shop, go out there and make some sawdust for the Sawdust Nation. Make sure you tag Sawdust Nation Podcast. You can tag my wonderful self, AJ over at Crafted in NJ, and Josh himself, who is
North Country Woodworking, working. AJ and I are just 2 blue-collar workers that love getting out in the shop making some sawdust. If you like getting in the shop too, let us know. We'd love to talk to you. Until next week, see ya.
I love playing with you.